Have you ever wished you could start the week with a home that feels calm, fresh, and completely under control, like you've pressed a reset button on your entire space? That's exactly what the weekly reset day rule is all about. It's not deep cleaning, and it's not about spending hours chasing every speck of dust. It's a gentle ritual that restores order, clears the little piles that sneak up during the week, and gives you the gift of a fresh beginning. For me, it usually happens on Sunday afternoon. I make a cup of tea, put on some music, and slowly move through each room, folding the blanket on the couch, emptying the baskets where things collect, and putting life back into place. In just a couple of hours, my home feels lighter, calmer, like it's breathing again. A woman I met in Portland, 62 years old, told me this one habit alone took away her Monday blues. She said, "When I start the week in an organized home, I feel like I'm ahead, not behind." That sense of peace is priceless. And the truth is, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. What once felt overwhelming now takes only a short time. And the ripple effect on your mood is incredible. Because starting the week with a reset doesn't just change how your home looks, it changes how you feel inside it. But here's the secret. That clarity only lasts if you stop small messes from piling up in the first place. And that's where the next tiny habit makes all the difference. Habit 1, the weekly reset day rule. Have you ever walked into your living room on a Monday morning only to be greeted by half-folded laundry on the chair and yesterday's coffee cup still on the table? That little weight in your chest? That sigh you let out before the day even begins? That's exactly what this habit was created to take away. I call it the weekly reset day rule, and it's more than just tidying up. It's a gentle ritual that brings your home and your mind back to balance. For me, it's Sunday afternoon. The sun is lower in the sky, I brew a cup of tea, put on soft music, and slowly move through my home. I'm not scrubbing floors or chasing every speck of dust. I'm simply returning life to its place. Folding the blanket on the couch, clearing the surfaces, emptying the little basket that holds the week's "I'll put it away later" items. In a couple of hours, my home feels like it's smiling back at me. What's remarkable is how this tiny shift changes the week ahead. A woman I met in Portland, 62 years old, told me, "When I started my Mondays with a reset home, I felt like I was already ahead of the week, not drowning in it." That sense of calm isn't about perfection. It's about creating space for yourself to breathe. And after 60, when our energy isn't what it once was, choosing one intentional reset is kinder to the body and the mind than chasing clutter every day. Here's the best part. The more you practice it, the lighter it feels. What once took me nearly a full day now takes only a couple of hours, because the house never drifts too far from order. And once you experience that peace on a Monday morning, you'll never want to go back. But here's the secret. This weekly reset only works beautifully when paired with the next habit. It's the 5-minute trick that stops clutter before it even begins. And once you know it, you'll see your home in a whole new way. Habit 2, the 5-minute rule. If the weekly reset gives your home a fresh start, the 5-minute rule is what keeps it from slipping back into chaos. The idea is beautifully simple. If a task takes less than 5 minutes, do it right away. Don't put it on a to-do list. Don't tell yourself you'll get to it later. Just finish it in the moment and watch how those tiny actions add up. Think about it. How many times have you tossed a sweater over a chair, rinsed a cup but left it in the sink, or piled today's mail on the counter for later? Each of those small delays feels harmless in the moment, but together they grow into those clutter hotspots that make a home feel heavy. When I started following the 5-minute rule, I was stunned at how many tasks I'd been postponing that actually took almost no time. Putting away laundry? Less than a minute. Washing that coffee cup? 30 seconds. Sorting the day's mail? 3 minutes. Linda, a 65-year-old friend of mine, once told me she was spending entire Saturdays catching up on the mess she had avoided all week. After committing to the 5-minute rule, she discovered she was saving herself nearly 2 hours every week. More importantly, she said her home felt different, lighter, calmer, less stressful, because those little piles never had a chance to grow. The magic isn't in the cleaning itself, it's in prevention. By tackling the small stuff right away, you never allow it to multiply into something overwhelming. It's like pulling a weed while it's still tiny, instead of waiting for it to take over the garden. And once this habit becomes second nature, you'll find yourself procrastinating less in other areas of life too. But here's where it gets even more powerful. When you combine the 5-minute rule with the next habit, something shifts in your mindset. You stop shuffling things around and start making decisions right away. That's where the one-touch habit comes in. Habit 3, the one-touch habit. The 5-minute rule keeps you from letting small tasks pile up. The one-touch habit takes things a step further. It's about reducing the hidden work we create for ourselves by constantly moving the same item from one place to another. The rule is simple. Whenever you touch something, decide immediately what to do with it. Put it away, act on it, or let it go. One touch, one decision. Think about how many times we pick up the mail, glance at it, and then set it down in a look at it later pile. Or how often we change out of a blouse and toss it on a chair, promising to hang it later. Every time we postpone the decision, we're doubling our work. I used to be guilty of this all the time. My desk would end up covered in little piles of paper that haunted me every time I walked by. Once I started practicing the one-touch habit, the clutter spots vanished almost overnight. The beauty of this habit is that it's not just about cleaning, it's about confidence. When you stop postponing decisions, you build trust in yourself. You learn that you can handle things in the moment. It's not always easy at first, but it becomes surprisingly freeing. A woman in her 70s once told me, "This rule made me feel decisive again, not stuck." That really struck me because clutter often reflects indecision, not laziness. And here's where the shift happens. Once you know exactly where things belong, the one-touch habit becomes effortless. You're not standing in the kitchen with a charger in your hand, wondering where it should go, which leads us directly into the next habit, the one that gives every item in your home a permanent home of its own. Habit 4, a place for everything. If the one-touch habit is about making quick decisions, this next one makes those decisions effortless. The "a place for everything" rule is exactly what it sounds like. Every single item in your home should have a permanent, designated spot. Because here's the truth. If something doesn't have a home, it ends up everywhere. And when everything can go anywhere, clutter sneaks in fast. I learned this the hard way. My keys used to play hide and seek with me daily, sometimes on the table, sometimes in my coat pocket, sometimes on the kitchen counter. My chargers traveled from room to room, and important papers lived in random drawers. It was frustrating, exhausting, and honestly, it made me feel scatterbrained. The simple fix? Decide once and for all where each of those items lives. Now my keys rest on a hook right by the door. My chargers sit neatly in a small box in the living room. All my important documents are in clearly labeled folders in a single drawer. At first, I had to remind myself to follow the system, but over time, it became automatic. The best surprise? Other people in my house naturally followed along too, because the system was obvious. When everything has a home, two things happen. You stop wasting time looking for stuff, and clutter loses its foothold. Suddenly, returning things where they belong takes seconds, not minutes, and your home maintains itself with far less effort. And here's where it ties together beautifully. Once you've given everything a place, you'll notice something else. Some items don't actually deserve a place in your home at all. That's where the next habit comes in, a gentle but powerful way to release the things you don't really need without guilt. Habit 5, decluttering with the "I don't know" box even after. Giving everything a designated place, you'll eventually run into those tricky items, the ones you don't quite know what to do with. Maybe it's a gift you never really liked but feel guilty about discarding. or a little souvenir that doesn't have enough meaning to display, but you can't bring yourself to let go of it either. These I don't know things are often the very items that create the most stubborn clutter in our homes. That's where the I don't know box comes in. It's a simple system. Keep one box tucked away, and whenever you're unsure about an item, place it inside. Then, give that box a deadline. 3 months, 6 months, whatever feels right. When the time is up, anything you haven't taken out or missed can safely be donated, gifted, or discarded. This one habit changed the way I looked at clutter. Instead of battling with guilt in the moment, I gave myself permission to delay the decision without leaving the item in plain sight. A woman I spoke with in California, 61 years old, told me she used this method for sentimental gifts from her children. If I didn't reach for them in 6 months, she said, I realized they weren't part of my life anymore, just part of my storage. The beauty of the box is that it softens the process. You don't have to be ruthless or feel wasteful. You simply create a fair system that lets the truly valuable things stay, while the rest slowly leave your space. And the freedom you feel when that box empties is worth it. Your home feels lighter, your mind clearer. But of course, the I don't know box works even better when paired with another simple discipline, making sure that whenever something new comes in, something else goes out. And that's exactly what the next habit is all about. Habit 6, the one in, one out rule. Clutter often sneaks in quietly, not because we never clean, but because we keep adding without letting go. That's why the one in, one out rule is so powerful. The principle is simple. Every time something new enters your home, one similar item must leave. Buy a new blouse, donate one that no longer fits, bring home a new kitchen gadget, pass along the old one gathering dust in the drawer. At first, I resisted this rule. After all, who doesn't love bringing new things into their life? But over time, I realized it wasn't about restriction. It was about balance. This habit helped me develop a more conscious relationship with what I own. I found myself asking, is this new item valuable enough to replace something I already have? Many times, the answer was no, which saved me not only from clutter, but also from unnecessary spending. One woman I know in her late 60s told me she began practicing this rule with her closet. For every new scarf or sweater she purchased, she chose one to donate. After a year, her wardrobe not only looked more streamlined, but she said she felt lighter, freer, and oddly more stylish, because every piece she owned was intentional. The magic of the one in, one out rule is that it prevents backsliding. You've already done the work of decluttering, and this habit protects that progress. It creates a natural flow. Things come in, things go out, so your home never feels like it's closing in on you again. And once you master balance, you'll discover something else. Maintaining a clean home doesn't require huge blocks of time. It can actually be done in small, consistent doses each day. That's where the next habit, the 15-minute daily cleaning ritual, makes all the difference. Habit 7, the 15-minute daily cleaning ritual. If the one in, one out rule helps you maintain balance, the 15-minute daily cleaning ritual is what keeps your home feeling fresh without draining your energy. For years, I believed that cleaning had to be an all-day affair, the kind where you cancel your Saturday plans just to tackle the mess. But that mindset only led to procrastination. I would wait until things got overwhelming, then spend hours catching up, exhausted and frustrated. The shift happened when I set a simple timer for 15 minutes. Every single day, no matter how busy I was, I dedicated just that short window to cleaning or tidying one specific area. Monday might be the kitchen, Tuesday the bathroom, Wednesday the bedrooms, and so on. By the end of the week, the whole house had been touched, without ever losing an entire day to chores. It may not sound like much, but those 15 minutes add up to nearly 2 hours of focused cleaning each week. More importantly, it prevents little problems from snowballing into big ones. Instead of scrubbing a disaster of a bathroom once a month, I give it a quick refresh mid-week, and it always feels manageable. A friend of mine, Barbara, who's 67, swears by this ritual. She told me 15 minutes feels so easy that I never dread it. But when I look around at the end of the week, I can't believe how clean my house looks. What's more, she said it changed her relationship with cleaning. It no longer feels like punishment, but simply another gentle rhythm of daily life. And here's the secret. When you've already been keeping up with small, daily tasks, the heavier weekly reset we talked about at the beginning becomes so much faster and easier. But what about the little odds and ends that still slip through the cracks? That's where the next habit comes in, the collection box system, a surprisingly simple trick to keep clutter under control without stress. Habit 8, the collection box system. Even with daily tidying and weekly resets, life has a way of scattering little things everywhere. That's why the collection box system is one of my favorite habits. It gives you a graceful way to manage the not right now items without letting them take over your home. Here's how it works. Place a small decorative box or basket in the main rooms of your house. The living room, the bedroom, even the kitchen. Whenever you come across something that's out of place but you don't have the time or energy to deal with it immediately, drop it into the box. Later, when you have a few minutes, you can empty the box and return each item to where it belongs. At first, I worried that I was just creating a new clutter pile, but the difference is intention. The box is temporary, and it has a clear rule. It gets emptied once a day. For me, that's usually in the evening before bed. It takes only a few minutes, but it keeps small messes from spreading into bigger ones. What I love most is how family members catch on. A woman I met in Michigan, 64 years old, told me her grandchildren even understood the system. When they don't know where to put something, she laughed, they just toss it into Grandma's magic basket. Instead of nagging, the box became a shared solution. There's another benefit too. Those boxes reveal patterns. If you notice the same type of item ending up there over and over, it's a clue that it doesn't have a proper home yet. That insight alone can help you fix the deeper problem, not just the symptom. The collection box system is forgiving, flexible, and perfect for real life. Because none of us can be perfectly organized every minute of every day. And once you've mastered this simple system, you'll be ready to add another micro habit that keeps your home feeling calm. A quick reset that takes less than a minute every time you walk out the door. Habit 9. The 30-second reset before leaving. This might be the tiniest habit of them all, but it makes one of the biggest emotional differences. I call it the 30-second reset before leaving. The idea is simple. No matter where you're going, whether it's running errands, meeting a friend, or just stepping out for a walk, take half a minute to give your space a quick reset before you leave. It sounds almost too small to matter, but trust me, it changes everything. For me, that means straightening the throw pillows on the couch, folding the blanket I used, carrying my coffee cup into the kitchen, and making sure the remote is back in its spot. None of this takes more than 30 seconds, but the magic happens when I walk back through the door later. Instead of being greeted by small messes that remind me of chores, I return to a space that feels calm and welcoming. A woman I know, Diane, who's 70, told me she started this habit before her daily morning walk. "It's such a gift to myself," she said. "When I get back, I feel like my home is saying, 'Welcome back. You can relax now.'" That tiny shift broke the cycle of stress and procrastination for her. The beauty of this rule is that it works like multiple little resets throughout the day. You're constantly bringing your environment back to its baseline, so clutter never builds up to the point of overwhelm. And once this becomes part of your rhythm, you'll start to see your home in a new light, clearer, calmer, and easier to care for. But clutter doesn't only creep in through daily habits, it also hides in plain sight, sitting on surfaces that attract stuff like magnets. That's why the next habit focuses on tackling one of the sneakiest culprits in every home, those endless horizontal surfaces. Habit 10. Fewer horizontal surfaces. If there's one truth about clutter, it's this: empty surfaces are like magnets. The more horizontal space you have, the faster it fills up. with mail, receipts, coffee mugs, magazines, even little trinkets you didn't mean to leave out. That's why one of the most surprising yet effective habits is to intentionally reduce horizontal surfaces in your home. I learned this after noticing how my coffee table always seemed buried under remote controls, reading glasses, and half-finished books. My kitchen counter, a landing pad for mail, keys, and appliances I rarely used, and the dresser in my bedroom, it became a catch-all for jewelry, scarves, and anything I didn't feel like putting away. The shift began when I asked myself, do I really need this much surface space? I donated the small hallway table that served no purpose other than collecting stuff. I replaced a bulky sideboard with a narrower cabinet that had drawers. For the surfaces I kept, I set clear boundaries. Only 3 small appliances were allowed on the kitchen counter. On the coffee table, a single decorative arrangement. On the dresser, just a lamp and a jewelry box. At first, these emptier spaces felt strange, almost bare. But soon, I realized how freeing they were. Cleaning became easier. I could wipe down the counter in seconds without moving a dozen objects. Rooms looked calmer, more spacious, and less visually noisy. Most importantly, the temptation to drop things down, just for now, disappeared. A woman in her 60s once told me, when I cleared my bedroom dresser, I felt like I could finally breathe in that room again. That's the heart of this habit. It's not about minimalism for its own sake, but about creating an environment that feels intentional and serene. And once you've tamed those surfaces, you'll be ready to think more strategically about the things you keep. That's where the next habit comes in, a simple but powerful system called the 4-quadrant matrix, which helps you decide exactly what deserves space in your home. Habit 11, the 4-quadrant matrix. Sometimes clutter isn't about laziness. It's about not knowing how to decide what stays and what goes. That's where the 4-quadrant matrix comes in. It's a simple framework that helps you sort your belongings into clear categories, so you stop treating everything as equally important. Here's how it works. Whenever you're tackling a drawer, a closet, or even an entire room, pull everything out and place each item into one of 4 groups. Quadrant 1, things you use often and truly value. These are your essentials, the items that make daily life smoother and deserve the most accessible spots. Quadrant 2, things you don't use often but deeply value, like important documents, sentimental keepsakes, or seasonal items. These should be stored safely, though not necessarily front and center. Quadrant 3, things you use frequently but don't actually care much about. These might be tools or kitchen utensils that are practical but replaceable. They can be kept accessible, but not in prime space. Quadrant 4, things you neither use nor value. And here's the truth. These are the silent clutter makers. They're the things taking up space without giving anything back. When I first applied this system, I realized so many of my prime shelves were occupied by Quadrant 4 items, while my essentials were tucked away and hard to reach. Rearranging them completely shifted how my home functioned. Suddenly, what mattered was visible and accessible, and what didn't serve me was gone. A woman in her 70s told me this method felt like putting her house through therapy. It gave her clarity, not just about her belongings, but about her own priorities. And here's the best part. Once you see your home through this lens, you'll notice you can let go of so much more than you thought possible, which brings us naturally to the final habit, learning the art of releasing what you don't use and discovering the freedom that comes with it. Habit 12, letting go of what you don't use. At the heart of an organized home is this simple truth. If you're not using something, it's probably using you, your space, your energy, and even your peace of mind. That's why the final habit, letting go of what you don't use, is so powerful. It's not about being ruthless or cold-hearted. It's about choosing freedom over clutter. Here's the rule I follow. If I haven't used or needed an item in the last year, it's time to reconsider its place in my life. That casserole dish buried in the back of the cabinet? The jeans that haven't fit in years? The stack of books I'll never reread? Each one might seem harmless on its own, but together they weigh down both your home and your spirit. When I first tried this, it was difficult. I had to confront the emotions tied to things I kept just in case. But the more I let go, the lighter I felt. A woman in her mid-60s once told me she finally donated 3 boxes of clothes she hadn't worn in decades. It felt like I reclaimed part of myself, she said. That's the hidden gift of decluttering. You're not just making room in your closet, you're making room in your life. Of course, there are exceptions. Seasonal decorations, meaningful keepsakes, and important documents are worth keeping. But those should be the exceptions, not the rule. Everything else? Release it to someone who can use it or let it go for good. And here's the beauty. Once you practice this habit regularly, every other system we've talked about, the reset day, the 5-minute rule, the one-touch habit, becomes so much easier because the less you own, the less you have to manage. Now that you've seen all the 12 habits, let's bring them together and talk about the bigger picture. How these tiny practices create not just a cleaner home, but a calmer, freer life. So there you have it, 12 tiny habits that together create a home that feels clean, calm, and beautifully organized. And the best part? None of them require you to spend endless hours scrubbing or chasing perfection. They're about gentle consistency, small decisions made in the moment, and systems that support you rather than drain you. Think back to what we started with, the weekly reset day that clears the slate and sets the tone for your entire week. Add in the 5-minute rule, the one-touch habit, and giving every item its own place. And suddenly, clutter doesn't stand a chance. Layer on the collection box system, the 30-second reset, and the habit of reducing surfaces, and your home becomes easier to maintain without effort. And finally, with the 4-quadrant matrix and the courage to let go of what you don't use, you discover the freedom of living with less but loving it more. Here's my challenge to you. Don't try to do all 12 at once. Pick just one habit, maybe the one that spoke to you the loudest, and practice it for 2 weeks. Notice the difference, then add another. Little by little, you'll build a rhythm that feels natural, not forced. And remember, the most organized home isn't the one that looks like a magazine spread. It's the one that feels supportive, welcoming, and easy to live in. That's the kind of beauty we deserve at every age. If this video inspired you, please hit the like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because your dream home isn't far away. It's already waiting for you, one tiny habit at a time.